When you say, I know I should be grateful, but, and you're setting yourself up for, explaining why there's some aspect that you're not happy with, I know it makes you feel ungrateful. That's the typical response we have because we want to be faithful, we want to stay humble to God, and we want to show our gratitude. But what if we can do both? What if we can be grateful and be disappointed? The two actually can coexist. And that's what I want to talk about in today's video. So let's dive in.
This is the balance journey, where we're all about turning challenges into growth opportunities and bringing mindfulness to everyday life.
Okay, so when we say something like, I know I should be grateful, but we've got a lot going for us, and yet there's something that's wrong, and we know it. And there's nothing wrong with having this desire for wanting more, or even though you feel like, well, if I say these things, it sounds like I'm feeling entitled, or you have this inner conflict between, what you feel is your faith and what would be right, it needs to get sorted out, or you just don't want to make a fuss. Those kinds of things are obviously heavy on our shoulders, and we deal with them as personally in our own way. But at the same time, here at the balance journey, what I'm always talking about is that we have signs that let us know that we're a little bit out of balance, that there's something wrong. And in this sense, this spiritual guilt that we feel because we want to show God our gratitude, but we also have this but involved. Well, it's letting us know that, we are seeking a cohesiveness. That's something that we'll naturally do. We're intuitively always doing. And I think if we beat ourselves up for not completely feeling settled with something, we're missing the perfect opportunity to actually clear vibration and work through that but in a way that I think is very pleasing to God. So obviously, I'm just telling you from my own experience, I'm just saying that I don't think it ever stops us being grateful just because we have a but in our vocabulary and in talking or thinking about a situation. And recently this really crossed my mind because I was talking to a couple who had recently received a very generous donation of something that was going to make their lives so much better. And in receiving that, they were given the opportunity to request things that they knew, in the day-to-day would really impact how this item can be used well. So here they are, finally received it. We're like, oh, we're so excited for you. Can we come and see it? We got to see it, and their first words were things like, we're very grateful, but, or, well, beggars can't be choosers, but, and I was really cluing into what was going on in their hearts. And I think it was this wanting to diminish. This isn't the greatest thing ever, because they were realizing that there was a leak in one aspect, and there was elements that they had requested that were just ignored. And when, regardless of whether or not you got it as a donation, you thought you were interacting and you were working toward a solution that was mutually beneficial, right? I mean, the company that was creating it, they received the money from the donations. Our friends, they were giving their input because they were going to be the user. So it's totally understandable, at least from the outside, to be watching that and be thinking, no, you have every right to be frustrated, to be disappointed right now, and to be wanting to pursue, okay, what can we do to fix this? Because it's not petty. It's things that are going to need to get used regularly. Some of it was just not quite right and it could be a safety issue, things like that. And so in that sense, if you're thinking about, okay, well, I'm wanting to be grateful, and yet I have my issues, I think the mindset shift is that we can be both. That's the first thing. We have to just be able to say, okay, I am both. And maybe then the first thing out of your mouth won't be diminishing the thing that is good, because you are kind of in that in between, not completely happy with the thing that you're dealing with. And I just think that when we're committed to remaining humble, to remaining grateful, we're not going to lose that just because we also say, yeah, however, there is this issue and this issue. And we can pursue action on those things, no matter what it is. We can expect reasonable fixes, and we can do that without guilt. That's what I really wanted to say in this video today. Was I want to encourage that. And I can tell you from my personal experience of just always being very, very concerned about showing God my gratitude, and knowing that, yeah, there have been times that I have not been happy with a situation, or I have had to speak to my partner on something or whatever, and wherever you're thinking, there should be, I should expect some reasonable fix here. Those things we should work through, and doing anything less than that, even though we're thinking, no, I'm just going to stay grateful, I'm not going to speak up. In a way, we're actually doing the opposite. We are clouding the gratitude because it's not in its fullness being able to be expressed while honestly acknowledging the but. So let's talk about that. The alternative is that you silently resent the problem. Maybe you talk it out in the beginning and it doesn't get resolved or something, and you are very grateful for the things you're grateful for, but that's still nagging you. And obviously there are times when you do have to come to peace with something and say, okay, I did my best, and you will let it go. And you can let it go because you allowed for the entire experience to unfold, for you to stay engaged, for you to pursue the justice or the action that was needed. And you have seen how it all played out. You did your part, right? But when you hold yourself back from doing that part because you're telling yourself, no, I should be grateful, and that's just it. I should be grateful. Beggars can't be choosers or anything like that. When you have that kind of mentality for yourself, well, I know it's about being humble, and you're trying to be humble and grateful. My concern is that you are going to think, okay, well, this is the right thing to do. But if you're lying to yourself, if I'm lying to myself, we are creating a blockage of vibration within ourselves. And we're not doing it on purpose. It's not a horrible thing if that's what we're doing. But at the same time, once we notice, wow, yeah, it just continues to bother me. If you truly let it go, it doesn't bother you. There's no blockage. But if it bothers you and you haven't stepped forward because you think you're doing the right thing, being the better person or something, maybe reconsider. Maybe go back to Spirit and say, okay, Spirit, this is nagging at me. And I am grateful. I'm so grateful for all of the things. However, how can I humbly move forward and resolve these things in a way that still honors you? And the thing that I think really happens there, is that when you desire to stay humble, but at the same time to really say, what can I do to clear the things that obviously are a problem? You can retain a humble stewardship of the things that you're given. And if you look at it that way, then you're only saying, I am seeking to be the best manager of what you've given me. You put all the parts together. I mean, obviously the individual companies that donated and everything, all of that made a part of the whole. But we're always, as faithful people, we are acknowledging that there's something greater at work, and we don't take it for granted, right? So in that moment, being able to say, okay, so now I received it. In any other situation, would I just say, okay, well, I just have to live with it? Probably not. We would pursue the fixes for the safety purpose, for the use and being able to complete the project the way it was meant to be, the way I think probably everybody intended, our friends intended when they gave their advice and their recommendations for what they needed, as well as probably the company did. But when things get dropped and, it doesn't follow through, it's okay. It should be okay to pursue it, to keep going. And you can still be humble doing so, still be grateful doing so. And I think that the thing then, when we're talking about spiritual growth in overcoming this guilt of being disappointed, it's therefore all about, how do I move forward in my disappointment? How do I remain grateful and continue to acknowledge that, and also add the action that I need to take and find a way to do so in respect toward the people I have to deal with, respect toward what I'm trying to show God I am grateful for, respect for the thing that is now in my stewardship, and I am going to do my best to manage it. And I think then you're going to be realizing that what you're doing is building your self-discipline. in this way of operating with God, with this openness and with this feeling of, I can trust you, God, that you know my whole heart. You know that I am grateful. You know I'm not taking this lightly, and that I'm trying to do my best in pursuing this action to get something fixed, you know? And you're also having this self-honesty where you really are honoring your disappointment. And in that sense, you're really staying open and clear, because God already knows our disappointment. We cannot squelch it or suppress it. We can, but obviously that's so vibrationally detrimental, and it just immediately is we're in a different place in our mind, heart, spirit circuit, in our connection, because we're not really being completely honest. So that's what I always say from my own experience. We can be and should be completely honest with God. This is just where I'm at, you know, please help me. And if you feel guided to maybe, nope, don't pursue it, you're going to feel peace about that, aren't you? And in feeling peace about it, you'll be fine. It's only when you're grateful but you're disappointed, you know, where you feel that the contradiction and you're not completely resolved about it. Then if you are grateful and I'm going to do something about my disappointment, I'm going to move forward, then you also feel like you are led in that direction, that you are acknowledged and supported, you know. And I think if we can look at it as, you know, let's say you work through the challenge with the company that created the product, and if you can say, well, you know, not only am I resolving for myself what needs to be done, but it's paving the way for opportunities for improvement in their understanding of the special need of a person like me and what I need in the way you manufacture something. It'll just, you know, sharpen people's understanding and awareness, because we're advocating for that. And I don't think that's ever a bad thing, to advocate for a better understanding, not for our selfishness, to say this is for a need that is valid in my situation, but at the same time to be able to say, you know, maybe it is going to help even the company to understand better in the future, someone who's like me, who has these needs, and they will understand why it's important to pay closer attention to these requests. And maybe I'm understanding for myself, how do I be even more clear on the value and the necessity of the kinds of requests I'm making, you know, that there are needs involved that require special attention. So in all those ways, I think that we do grow spiritually through the times when we are saying, you know, I'm happy where I'm at, you know, and there's so much going on that's good for me, but, and then we're acknowledging the things that, you know, we want to see improvement. And we almost always want to see improvement because we are seeking for that next level of equilibrium. And, you know, we're knowing that there's so much good, but we are always wanting to see how we can be involved in growth and progress and all of that. So really, when it comes to any situation that we are facing where we already want to be humbly grateful, we already acknowledge there's so much going on, when you say, but there's still these things that I'm going through, just acknowledge to yourself that it's about how you move through those times. You know, that you anchor in even deeper and more steadily with, okay, God, I want to stay honest. Okay, God, I want to be open. I want to be made aware of anything that I need to let go of. But if I can be doing something positive here with moving forward and seeking for fixes and seeking for things becoming better, then guide my heart to stay humble and guide my process so that I can, you know, do this still to honor the motivation that you're giving me, you know, because really that's really what it is. We are motivated, again, to always say, okay, something's not quite right, and we're seeking for a settledness, a balance, and that motivation is intrinsic. That's just coming from inside, and I don't think we should fight it. So it's obviously everybody's choice in what we do on that, but I really hope that if you are in that struggle between feeling guilty, for being grateful, but then also, wanting more, or in any scenario where you know there's so much that you have already, but something's off, or you feel really empty. We all are going through something like that. And I just think it's time to dig into that, and don't fight the two. Know that they can coexist, and maybe they can move you forward by embracing both. So I really hope that encourages you today. And if this video helped you, I hope you'll give me a thumbs up, and I will talk to you in the next video.